Welcome into our lives.
And welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
We're so happy to have you.
Join us as we embark on a journey of deep exploration, soul searching, and asking the hard questions.
With the goal of truly understanding the most aligned, empowered, and purposeful versions of ourselves.
We want to live an extraordinary life, and we're willing to dig deep to find out what it takes.
Buckle up. You're about to meet a new version of yourself, an extraordinary one. Hello, my friends. How are we doing? Coming off of Mother's Day and also Scorpio full moon. Both could bring up some interesting feelings. So how are we doing? How are we doing with all of that? I'm good. You know, the Scorpio full moon did bring up some stuff, and you guys, I have to tell you what is on my mind lately. It's actually quite messed up. I have this like severe fear of snakes. It's literally the only thing I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of lizards or rats or mice or bugs or spiders or alligators or anything like that. I'm only afraid of snakes, and I am petrified. I'm petrified. So we live in North Carolina now, almost 3 months in. Can you guys even believe that? We live in North Carolina now, and there are reptiles here. There's a lot of wildlife here, and we love that. And I want to be more in nature, right? And it's helped my nervous system so much. But there are freaking reptiles and there are snakes, and we are in contract on a house, which is so exciting. We're really excited about it. I'll give you guys the full scoop at some point. And we went to see the house like a week. And this is like almost 2 weeks ago now. This is how messed up this is on my mind. We went to see the house with the inspector, and he was showing us some things outside. And as we're turning the corner, there's a goddamn snake in the lawn. Like a large snake, you guys. A large gray snake. Like 6 feet. 6 feet. Like, couldn't it have been like 1 foot? I think my experience would have been much different. And of course, I'm the one who sees it. So I gasp and run, and my heart rate goes up. And let me tell you, it has taken up an insane amount of my headspace ever since then. When it happened, my husband was like, are we going to be able to move into this house? Like, have you changed your mind now that there's a snake in the yard? And I was like, no, I'm not that crazy, right? But we need to figure out. And there's like, no one's lived there for a few months. So there's leaves down, and there's brush, and there's like a little bit of a wooded area that needs to be cleaned up, which is all, you know, we wanted more nature. But goddamn, you guys, the amount of headspace that this snake, and not only the snake, all snakes have taken up in my head since then has been a lot. And it's like, it comes at the worst times. It's like at the end of the day when I'm in bed, you know, just thinking about stuff, like the image of the snake pops in, and you go down this crazy rabbit hole of scenarios of encountering snakes that just like don't even make sense, right? But all the scary things you've seen in every movie. I also made the mistake, we'll call it, of sharing about this a little bit on social media. And damn, people do not know how to respond properly when you tell them you're afraid of them. I shared more of like, help. Has anyone gotten over a phobia? Like any advice? And people just started sharing their scary ass snake stories with me. And that's even happened in person. Like we met some neighbors today, and I was like, oh, you know, we saw a snake in the yard, and then one of the neighbors, you know, I'm just looking for someone to be like, no, it's not a big deal. It's not common. You know, there's not really snakes around this neighborhood. And the lady was like, oh yeah, just a week ago, my dog got bit by a venomous snake, and we had to rush her to the hospital. And like, goddamn. Okay. The last thing I need is more snake stories filling my head. So you guys, this is taking up an unhealthy amount of time, brain space, energy. And it has been a catalyst for me to conquer this final fear. I don't fully know what that looks like yet. I am going to do hypnotherapy with my friend Brooke Novak, who has been on this podcast before. We're going to start there. We're going to start with hypnotherapy. I'm going to learn about the poisonous snakes in the area. I'm going to learn about, and it's not, to be clear, it's not just poison. Any snake scares me. But I think knowing the difference between the poisonous ones and the non-poisonous ones, I'm going to go on this journey because I can't live like this. I can't live like this, literally in fear. And it gets very crazy and irrational to the point of it's not only when I'm outside. Obviously, I walk out the door. Before I even walk out the door, I'm like looking out the window, scanning the ground for snakes. And at every moment that I'm outside, I'm on high alert looking around. Like, that's already pretty messed up. But then it's things like, I feel something moving in the bed. Like, oh my God, is that the snake? I hear a noise in the other room. Like, oh my God, is that the snake? Like, doesn't make any sense. So the moon in Scorpio, which is what this was all coming back to, allowed me to kind of witness some of the conditioning and the trauma and incidences in my life that brought me to this point with this extreme phobia. And so, I don't know if I'm like at a point in life where it makes sense to tackle those head on, or I even need to because I've done so much work. But I did this thing that was really beautiful that I saw my friend Kate Van Horn, who has also been on this podcast. She shared about, and she said when there's a full moon, she asks whatever feels heavy, whatever she needs to let go of, she asks the moon to hold it for her. So I did that last night when my brain was, spinning about snakes and any other random traumas and fears, and asked the moon to kind of hold that for me. And it was very comforting. It was very comforting. So I highly recommend it. And of course, I got a terrible night of sleep because the full moon. I am a Cancer rising. Sorry, not Cancer rising. Cancer sun and Cancer moon. And Cancer is ruled by the moon. So full moons are always interesting for me. It's always a bad night of sleep. My daughter came on a full moon. She was actually created on a full moon. They're always eventful for me. So, if, you're struggling with something right now, or if you're triggered by something whenever a full moon comes up, I think that's a really beautiful practice to ask the moon to hold it for you. Instead of sometimes what I do is I'm cursing the moon because she's, making me go through things. And Mother's Day was lovely. And honestly, you guys, it was a really important moment in my life because this was the first Mother's Day where I didn't feel like I needed a break. I didn't feel like I needed a break from my life, right? Like a lot of Mother's Day stuff is even packaged that way. Like, dad take the kids, give mom a spa day, like give mom a break, let mom sleep in, whatever it is. And I had felt very desperate for those things in the past and in past Mother's Days, because it's like, right, it's also positioned as like, this is our one opportunity. This is the one day we have an excuse not to be on 100%. And this year it felt very different. I didn't feel like I needed anything or wanted anything. I spent the day with my family. We went to like this place that I had no desire to go to, but that day it was rainy and my daughter asked if we could go. And so I said yes. And it's like this arcade place that it's called Jungle Rapids Family Fun Park. So you can imagine from there, but it's like arcade games. And then there's a whole separate like play area that's bounce houses and crawl things. And I went willingly and happily, and we had the best time. We went out for ice cream. My husband, cooked breakfast and dinner, but realized like, we've actually are building a life that we don't need a break from. My husband can do all those things and does any other day. If I need a break, I am able to say I need a break. I don't, I prioritize things in a different way where I'm not burnt out and exhausted all the time. So more to come on that, but it felt like a really big moment for me of like, wow, I've done it. And it's always a work in progress, right? But I am building a life that I don't need a break from. And that feels really freaking good. Cool. I am really excited for today's episode and to introduce you guys to today's guest. Her name is Megan Shekleton, and she's a certified executive coach and founder of a company called Wider Visions. And I absolutely love their mission. So obviously this stems from her coaching experiences. She is using wider visions to make coaching resources more accessible. And she just launched this month, actually. She's starting with a journal that is it's a guided journal called the Vision Journal. And the goal of it is to help you get clear on the visions that you want to expand into for your life. So it has prompts. Mine is in the mail. I'm so excited to start using it. It has different prompts as if you had a coach. It has reflections. It's this whole process that kind of just is a tool to help coach you along into expansion, which is really exciting. And I love this idea. I've shared with you guys before. I've been very lucky to be resourced on my journey. And, when I was at my rock bottom and didn't know where to go, I found a coach. And I have built this little team of coaches and healers that I go to depending on what my needs are. And it's been really incredible, but it's expensive. It's expensive. And, it's not something that everyone has access to, or whether you have the money, maybe you don't have the time. So I love the mission of Wider Visions. I love that she started with a journal. You know how much I believe in journaling and what a tool it has been for me. And I know so many of you. So it's really exciting. Wider Visions is the name of the company. You can find them on Instagram at Wider Visions, and you can get that journal. The Vision Journal is out now. Excited to hear if any of you get it and, where it leads you. But Megan, she's with all of us who get into coaching or healing or helping others, like she had her own very intense roller coaster of a journey that she shares with us. Had her own rock bottom, her own, issues with worthiness and value, and had her own toxic catalyst that kind of took her to her rock bottom and made her ask the question that many of us do, is like, what am I doing? What am I doing and what do I want out of life? And that's where she picked herself up, and she talks about her journey into becoming a coach, the tools she uses, the tools she used to get out of her rock bottom, and then the tools she uses as a coach. And there's a lot of great insight and a lot of great information. And one of the things that we talk about that I don't think gets enough love, and you guys have heard me talk about this before, and it's a tool that I use with my clients, and I see such incredible results, is reflection, the power of reflection. And so making this part of your ritual and habits for me, and with a lot of my clients, and even for myself, it is a end of week reflection on the week. Ideally, you're writing a few things down. For myself, I reflect on miracles of the week. I love that word. I love the energy of that. And I'll, write down a few of the miracles that I experienced that week. And they can range from anything of we had a beautiful beach day to, huge, we bought a house. It can run the gamut. And sometimes it's a few weeks ago, it was like, hey, I got to carry a turtle across the road to save it from getting hit in the road. It can literally be anything. And I think that's the fun part, is you get to re-examine what you define as a miracle. And there's a million miracles around us happening every moment. Just the fact that we get to open our eyes is a miracle, right? But I do my reflections as miracles. I have, some of my clients just do their reflections on the week and write them down and share them with me. And honestly, the process I think it is the most important step in embodiment, in embodying the things that we're learning, the lessons we're learning, embodying you could even be in action on things and not fully be embodying them. So I think one of the most important parts of reflections is the pathway, or one of the final steps to embodiment, actually embodying the energy, the actions, the way of being that you are learning about and attempting to do. And also it allows for some real moments of unconditional love. When you reflect on, we do a lot in a week, and we are actually badasses. And it's not about doing, right? But we learn a lot, we experience a lot, we have a lot of growth in a week's time, or even if you're reflecting back on a month, like we're moving pretty quickly and we're really impressive. And I think the opportunity to reflect on that and see that and write it down and just have those moments of like, damn, I'm really proud of myself. This is actually impressive. I am actually doing the things that I say I'm going to do. I am actually showing up for myself. I am actually putting in the work, putting in the effort. I am actually changing and growing. There's so much value in those moments of you recognizing yourself. And there's so much value in that moving you much quicker and in a much bigger way toward the path of unconditional self-love. Like, right? Those are exercises in exercising that muscle of unconditional self-love. And I think you guys know, and if you don't, like for me, when I teach people and when I think about how we open up our psychic gifts or our wisdom and how we access and like gather and pull information from the quantum field, the baseline you have to have is unconditional self-love. So for my work in the spiritual world, for myself and for anyone that I teach, it's like, hey, we got to start with unconditional self-love. Until you have that, you're not going to be able to be a good psychic. You're not going to be able to fully access your gifts. You're not going to be able to fully be at your highest vibration. So I love this exercise for that. It's the exercise of reflection is like working that muscle of unconditional self-love until all of a sudden you just are unconditional self-love, because you can only give to others what you have given to yourself. So with that said, from snakes to unconditional self-love, guys, we are on a roller coaster. This journey of expansion is just such a roller coaster, isn't it? The journey of life, like it's just one big adventure. And I think the more that we can like settle into that and look at that as a really exciting thing, like the more flow and ease comes, like just another day in this great adventure. And for me, another day in this great adventure, sharing it with you guys. And I'm so grateful and so lucky for that. Yeah. All right. If you need me, you know where to find me. You can follow the podcast at Expanders Club on Instagram, or you can contact me directly at _Brooke_Harris. I am obviously the host of this podcast. I am a CEO. I run a beverage and wellness business, and I am an oracle and expansion coach. Maybe one of my favorite jobs. So if you need some guidance, if you are looking to live a bigger life, if you are looking for your purpose, if you are looking to be guided on your purpose, if you are just looking to reach your highest vibration and shine and feel good and build a life that you don't need a break from, I can help you. And I would love to help you. It brings me so much joy. So you can go ahead and again, follow me on Instagram at _Brooke_Harris. There is a link in my bio where you can learn more about oracle readings, oracle sessions, mentorship, any of that. It is my greatest joy to serve in that way and help people expand and meet and reach their highest timeline. All right. Thank you, Megan, for joining us. You are an incredible being, certainly an expander. And I know you guys are going to get so much out of this episode. Go get her journal. Let me know. Let me know what your vision is and how you're working toward it. And thank you. Love you all. See you soon. All right, Megan, I am so excited to have you. Welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. And you are a walking, living expander. So I'm so excited for our audience to learn a little bit about your story, learn more about what you do, and gather some wisdom, tips, tricks, tools from you. But let's start first with your story. Tell us a little bit about, maybe tell us first where you landed, what it is you do now,
Sure.
and then let's rewind and talk about how you got there, because I know it's been a wild and twisting journey.
Thank you so much
That's
for
perfect.
having me here. I am Megan Shekleton. I'm a certified executive coach, and I work with female founders and leaders who are transforming into a wider vision for their life and their careers. I'm also a three-time founder. I most recently sold my last venture a year ago, which was such a career peak for me. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm really excited to be building wider visions. At Wider Visions, our mission is to create more accessibility to coaching tools for transformation. So I've seen firsthand how powerful these coaching tools, frameworks have been in my own life, in my clients' lives. But the fact is that private coaching isn't accessible to everyone. But I feel like the tools to change your life through mindset management, better nervous system regulation, aligning your vision and your behavior, all of these really fundamental practices to create internal and external transformation, people should know about. And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
yeah. And so we are creating intentional guided journals and products that teach you how to tap into that more expansive thinking for your life and then start to embody the version of yourself that you want to be.
I love that. I love the idea of creating tools for accessibility because, I look at my journey and I've been so lucky. But I have had a team. My rock bottom, I mean, I've been on the journey for,
Mm-hmm.
I think any of us who are entrepreneur, who have the entrepreneurial mindset or the entrepreneurial illness. We are on a journey no matter what. We're seeking something, right? We start a business because we're seeking something. You've started three, so I'm not exactly sure what that says about you. But I love it. I totally get it. But we're seeking something, and so I've been seeking for decades and on the journey. But most recently, when I had my really hard rock bottom, I've had a team to help me out of that and help
Mm,
me through that. And it's hard to like share that with people because you're like, I know everyone doesn't have the ability to do that, right? And I also think coaching, there like a lot of coaching, their coaching should be to lead you back to you. So if you can have tools to awaken
mm.
yourself and to lead yourself back to you, I think that's pretty powerful.
I love sentiment. I think it is so wild, Brooke, that in school we are taught about math, we're taught about social studies, but we're taught nothing about how, to question your thinking or, how to bring safety back to your body when you're feeling stressed, by taking a deep breath, for instance,
Yes.
which I know we
Yes.
did right before this call. And it's all of these really foundational tools to better understand yourself. And then with that understanding, embody who you want to be, create change in your life that no one teaches us about, but impact us every single day and every single moment. And I really want to create practical and impactful tools that help people really bridge that knowledge gap.
Yes. I love that. I mean, I love how you like this stuff is it's our right to be like have our nervous system regulated. It is
Mm-hmm.
our right to know how to operate in the world and weave through our own emotions and feel empowered and understand how our breath works. Like how are there not breath work class? Like how is
I
like
know.
breathing is the most important, arguably the most important thing we do every day. Like we never how do we never talk about it or are taught how to do it or taught how different styles of breathing can help us through different things like that when you put it that way, like it actually is kind of crazy.
It's crazy. And I'm sure, the bit that I know about your journey, it's similar to mine, but we found ourselves here through a very
Hmm.
long process that I just want to make easier
Yeah.
for people
Yeah.
because the truth is that all of these past versions of me that were really, really suffering just didn't have the tools to be able to better take care of herself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they're really, really simple practices, but they're, sometimes it's the simple practices that can be the most life-changing.
Yes. Let's talk about her. Let's talk about
Yes.
the past versions of you. What led you to this moment?
Mm. Yeah, I have so much compassion for her. When you said, let's talk about her, I just feel like I want to give her a deep hug and
Mm-hmm.
just tell her I love her. You know, Brooke, growing up, I really struggled with my sense of self-worth and confidence. I, the core limiting belief that, even now I have to kind of make peace with or remind myself around that is I'm enough.
Mm.
And I used to chase, trying to fill not feeling enough by external achievements.
Yeah.
So that might be like getting, straight A's, climbing, getting a great job outside of school. But what it resulted in was really intense anxiety, a really loud inner critic, panic attacks, disordered eating. And it all really came to a head early on in my career. I found myself in a really toxic work environment. And that need to never make a mistake, to always be
Mm-hmm.
perfect, came out full throttle. And I was, crying every day to work, having panic attacks in the bathroom,
God.
still hitting my marks, but I was deeply, deeply unhappy. And I ended up getting sick. And I really believe it was that prolonged state of fight or flight,
Yes.
that my body was under this intense stress and anxiety that just triggered an autoimmune illness, fibromyalgia, which is a chronic illness. Um, that I've, now put into remission. But at that time, feeling like physically my lowest and mentally my lowest, it really forced me to be like, okay, I need help. I need to do something differently. And I feel like for so many of us, um, there's this amazing quote that I love: the pain pushes until the vision pulls.
Mm-hmm.
And for
Mm-hmm.
so many of us, like we come at change or transformation when we're so deeply unhappy that
Yeah.
like the right is that's the quote, like the pain of being in a bud, like you are forced to transform. And so for me, that looked like going to therapy and really starting to look at these stories and beliefs that I had been automatically assuming to be true. Not, realizing that there was separation between me kind of as a whole and then my thoughts, and
Mm-hmm.
starting to really do the, inner reparenting and starting to question my thinking, starting to build more self awareness. And then, um, likewise, the mind and the body are two parts of a whole. And I really started to learn that, like, breath work and meditation and some of these ways to regulate my nervous system played a huge part in my mental health and my physical health.
Yeah.
And that was really just the start of my journey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I think that a lot of times we can be unhappy, but it's not until we have the physical symptoms and they're so daunting and detrimental that we actually
Hmm.
do something.
Totally. And I always tell this to people that are struggling with physical illness. Everything in your life, and this is, my opinion, but I think everything in your life can be right. But if you don't physically feel well, it is very, very challenging to feel like you can really like fully enjoy life.
Yes.
Um, your job can be great, your relationship can be great, your friends, your community. But if you don't physically feel like you have vitality and you can have health, it's really hard to like be present and really enjoy the experience.
Yeah. Well, there's an energetics behind disease and illness, right? And at least in the world that I operate in and in my experience too. And I think a lot of times the question is like, what is your illness trying to tell you
Mm.
or trying to teach you? And I think a lot of times it's the body's like last resort and the universe's last resort to be like, hey, we've been sending you some signs. We put you in this work environment that's not good. You're crying in the bathroom every day. We're giving you
Mhm.
panic attacks and like you're still not listening. So what do we have to do to knock you down for you to really listen? And a lot of us, I think, especially in our generation, we we have to hit that like the rock bottom, the like bottom of the dark hole, the dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it, before we go, okay, I need to figure out how to do something. And it sounds like you were in that place. And similar to me, you crawled your way back up by just like figuring out how to show up for yourself in all the different ways, one step at a time.
Yeah, I so agree with that. And that for me, that was really like the first chapter. And then from there, I started to kind of climb the corporate ladder. But I felt this deep yearning for my own business.
Mm-hmm.
And I, at the time, didn't know any entrepreneurs. And so I sat on the idea for 4 years because I felt like a huge imposter. And eventually I decided to give it a try. And it was my first business, Moxie Made, where I would host events for women to get mentorship and a space to connect versus networking.
I love
And
that.
it was such a heart offering for me,
Mm-hmm.
and also so stretchy because it was the first time that I really like followed through on a big, big vision that had been calling to me. But what I realized is we can have these visions, but if our mindset and our behaviors aren't really kind of subconsciously aligned with the vision, we're going to feel a ton of resistance and a ton of self doubt along the way. And, that business, I'm so proud. I collaborated with incredible women, amazing brands, and it felt like, okay, everything was really taking off. All of my dreams were coming true. And then COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
events went away overnight. My revenue dried up. I had just gone full time with Moxie Made.
Wow.
And we had just moved to Austin. So new city, didn't have a community. It's COVID, so it's weird to make friends.
Yep.
And it was this reckoning of, I finally realized how much of my self worth was wrapped up in what I did,
Yeah.
or how successful I was, or all of these different ways that it was really like propping up my identity as a New Yorker,
Mm-hmm.
as a former ad
Mm-hmm.
exec, as an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, all of these different ways. And I really had to take a breath and be like, who am I
Yes.
underneath it
Yeah.
all?
Yes.
And am I enough? Like, just who I am I enough? Is she enough? And so it really was this moment of a reckoning around my relationship with my work, my self worth, productivity. And it was really an invitation to explore coaching. So I had always been
Mm.
interested in coaching. And I ended up going and getting my certification, working with, um, founders and executives. And for me, I love the like magic of supporting someone
Yes.
in that transformation process. It is just so rewarding when people have this dream, and then through the process of going after it, they meet like a new sense of self. And for me, I feel like that's what my journey has really been about, of like, okay, what's my vision in the moment? And then how can I be brave enough to meet it? And now on the other side of this, I feel like what has been so transformative is I haven't had a panic attack in 10 years.
Yes.
My fibromyalgia is in remission, I like to call it. I
Mm-hmm.
have maybe one flare up once a year. And for me, as you were speaking about, like, our body is talking to us, like,
Yes.
I use it as an invitation of like, okay, what is my body telling me? My body is telling me that I need to rest.
Yep.
Whereas I used to feel like I had to earn my rest. I
Mm-hmm.
used to feel like I can
Mm-hmm.
only rest if I've done everything on
Yes.
my to-do list.
Yes.
Um, and more than that, than the external things, I've sold a business, I'm now in my third business. More than the external things, I just feel a lot more steady in my sense of like innate self-worth. And I truly feel like that, it sounds trite, but that self-love muscle is so much deeper. And I have a much better relationship with my work, and it can be a full expression of my purpose.
Yes.
And it doesn't, the results that come from it don't have to mean anything about how enough I am, because that's innate.
Yes. Yes. I think worthiness is, God, it has to be the number one thing out there, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
for women. And even if you don't, I would ask the listeners to take a second and think about that, how they feel about their own worth. Like even if, and like dig deeper, even if it's not what you think is like your number one or a big issue. There's it's just there. It's underneath it all, right? For a lot of us. And what I talk about in my spiritual work with my clients is like, if a lot of people want to tap into the quantum, they want to tap into their psychic skills. And the foundation to be able to do that, the number one thing, the number one door you have to step through is to have unconditional love for yourself. And so same thing we're talking about, right? Worthiness, to feel worthy, to have unconditional love. If you don't have that, like you're not going to unlock your psychic gifts, right? How does someone start? What's the first step that they take to
Yeah,
start feeling worthy?
that's a beautiful question. Well, I think it starts with awareness. I
Yes.
always tell my clients that the first step in change is first being aware. And
Yeah.
so we celebrate those moments. We celebrate the moments of like, okay, I'm recognizing this pattern, or I'm
Mhm.
recognizing I'm noticing this thought. I'm noticing that I am telling myself this story. And is it true?
Yeah.
Byron Katie's
Yeah.
for questions. It's like, is it true? Can I 100% know it to be true? Who am I without this thought?
Hmm.
Um, and so, as we were talking about self worth, I think people can feel like our emotions are the barometer of our thoughts and our stories. So if you're not feeling good emotionally, it's a good sign that there's something kind of beneath the surface that's going on. But I do think without the awareness muscle, it
Yeah.
can be really, really hard to realize how critical you're being to yourself,
Hmm.
how
Hmm.
mean you might be talking to yourself, how you might be looking at a situation and assuming the worst and
Yes.
making it mean the worst about you,
Yes.
or looking at like a future scenario, right? Future catastrophizing and thinking about the worst case scenario versus considering the possibility of the best case scenario is also potential. And so to really build self-worth, I think it starts with building more awareness around your current thoughts and
Hmm.
stories,
Hmm.
behaviors. And then it's truly getting curious. Curiosity is a huge component for me, but getting curious around them. And then how can we tell ourselves kinder? There's,
Yes.
thousands of ways to look at a situation. What might be the more neutral thought, or what
Yep.
might be the kinder thought?
Yep. And I know as you're talking, I'm like just nodding my head, yes, 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 and thinking about my process through it all. And for me, a lot of times it has helped, you know, I think through this all, especially if you don't have a coach, you can be so in your head. A lot of it for
Mm-hmm.
me has helped to see when I have those thoughts and I write them down,
Yes.
that's when they really start to feel ridiculous, right? Like once
Mm-hmm.
they're removed from your head and you see them on paper, or sometimes you can't even fully write them because you're like, this is ridiculous. This is not true. Like, so I think that exercise, I know I want to talk about journaling because I know that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
tools that you love so much. Journaling is free. It's been a huge thing that we've talked about on this podcast for people. It's a huge thing for me. I do it every day and have for years. And I have like a pile of journals that some of them I'm like, that was a rough chapter. I'm probably never going to go back and read that, But sometimes, like usually on a birthday, I like to go back a few, 6 to 12 months and reread things to see how far I've come. But it is such an incredible tool, and just the ability to get stuff out of your head and on paper and have a conversation with that version of you that's on paper versus the version of you that's in your head. Like, talk to me about journaling, how you use it as a tool, and just like the shifts that you've seen with it.
Yes. Yeah, journaling is a huge practice of mine as well. It's been so transformative. And you're so right in that the powerful practice of journaling is that it does create a little bit of distance and separation from our thoughts. And so it allows us to kind of like zoom out in our
Mhm.
perspective, and with that space, be able to invite curiosity or consider, okay, do I automatically want to believe this or attach to this? There's
Yes.
even studies where when people have gone through something traumatic and they write about it in a third person, they automatically start to feel kind of more neutral about the
Mm,
situation. And so there's also a lot of science behind how powerful the journaling practice can be.
yes.
And I have had a journal since I was itty bitty. I always say if we had, if I had to take one thing with me, if I were to leave my home, that would be what I would take. And
Yeah.
it can be really powerful to look back on your own, your old writings and be like, okay, I, there's still a byline of like my true essence in the writings.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
also look at how far I've come.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
to tell yeah.
I love that, like, pat yourself on the back moment. I talk to a lot of my clients and friends about just like doing a monthly reflection. I feel like certainly in the spiritual world, we're always like, it's a new season, it's a new, a new month. Like, what's your month ahead look like? And so rarely do we like then reflect on that month. And like that's where I always feel the real progress is, the real growth, the real moments of like self appreciation, self compassion. Like, I guarantee once you look back, you're like, damn, that was
Mhm.
awesome. Like, she did a lot. Like, and it also helps you recognize the stories in your head. I had a year ago, that I was just like, at the end of the month, I was like, what did I even do this month? Like, I felt so unproductive. And then I looked back and I had done an insane amount of things. And it was like
Mm.
February, so it was the shortest month of the year. And I had done, once I had like written out, I was like, what is this story that I am telling myself? Like, that is actually ludicrous,
Mm.
And so I think the power of having a journal to also assist in the reflecting is huge.
Yes. And I feel like you bring up such a good point in, you know, we can lie to ourselves. Like sometimes our we can be an unreliable narrator. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. My father-in-law's he's retired now. He was a homicide detective, and it's like we always like watch the different, all the different crime shows and like call him for like the advice and the scoop, and he's like, the eyewitness is usually the most unreliable person
Oh, that's so
actually.
interesting.
Yeah, it's because you misremember, your brain manipulates things, or, so the eyewitness to your life could be pretty
Mhm.
unreliable sometimes.
Yeah. And, I always tell my clients like the process of change can feel long. Like it takes 66 days to form a new habit. Like changing our lives, especially from an
Yes.
internal perspective and then
Hmm.
matching with the external, can take a long time. And so, a
Yes.
practice that I love and that I always tell my clients to do is to create like an evidence list. So, when you have
Yes. I
clarity
love that.
on, okay, I am expanding into this vision. Every single day, write 5 wins. Like celebrate yourself in the process. And it can be so small of, I, you know, didn't react right away. I shifted my response. It could be, I sent that email out that felt really stretchy. Like recognize yourself in the smallest and smallest of ways, because it gives your subconscious evidence that you're actually changing, that,
Yes. Yes.
it helps your reticular activating system, your brain's filtration, to start to notice it more. And then you start to believe that that's your new
Yes.
identity.
Yes.
And it can be so powerful when you look back like a few months from now and be like, wow, remember when sending that email to that person felt like so stretchy, made me so nervous. I had to feel so brave to do it. And now look at where I am, because we
Hmm.
can, I feel like for many of us, our brain, we're conditioned to always be looking to what's next. And we can forget and not, take enough time to reflect on
Yes.
how far we've come.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think that's really huge. Now, I know that you have a journal launching, right, in the next couple of
Yes.
weeks. Can you tell me about that and tell me about some of the prompts that you have in that? Because
Mhm.
like that's also really exciting. Like, I'm good at sitting with my own thoughts and like creating stuff sometimes in the morning, but sometimes you want like you want to be surprised and like led down a path, you know? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I would love to.
Mhm.
It's been a long time in the making, and it feels like such a heart-led offer. But it's called the Vision Journal, and it's our first guided journal within a series for wider visions. And it really helps you tap into that expansive thinking of, what do I want for my life? What would feel
Mhm.
so expansive? And then start to map out the identity of that next level self, and then also initial behaviors and mindset shifts that you can take. And so it's, a journal, but it really is like part book, part guided journal, and part workbook. So
Love that.
it comes with over 80 self inquiry prompts to really start to, get that awareness that we talked about. It includes 11 coaching tools and frameworks that for you to really start to embody that identity, and then comes with a QR code to a guided course, meditations, and tapping videos.
Cool.
And so at Wider Visions, I really want to be the most impactful and accessible way to change your life. And it's really perfect for someone that's maybe wanting to make a big change but is lacking clarity,
Mhm.
or is feeling stuck and unfulfilled in some way. Someone that's really wanting to get inspired about what's next. And, one of the prompts that I love to invite when really clarifying your vision is, if I had no restrictions at all, what would I want my life to look like?
I love that.
Or, or said another way, like, if I knew the universe was going to say yes, if I knew anything was possible, every dream was mine for the taking, what would I want? What would I want my
Mm.
life to look like? And then from there, really giving yourself the space to lean into your desires versus what you
Yes.
just think is possible for you.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that one, how expansive that is. And that then the next step of that is like, as you're doing the work that you teach, like let the universe show you like what you thought
Mm-hmm.
of. Hey, the universe has something even better in store. Like that's where I always get a kick out of like
Mm.
these plans, even in my own life, like these plans and ideas that we have for our life. And it's like, we can't even imagine how big and amazing things can be, right? Like our little brains, the 20% of them that we're using, like, so like take your dream, take your biggest dream, go after it, and then know that it's going to be even bigger and better than that. And that is like a really exciting journey to be on.
Yes, I love that. I mean, I think our dreams are there because it's an opportunity and invitation for us to initiate the process of
Yes.
transformation
Yes.
into a more expansive sense of self. And they're there to be kind of like the motivator and initiator. And then it becomes this co creative process with the
Yes.
universe.
Yes. And it's like, hey, I'm here. I'm willing to show up. Cool. Yes. Lead me in the right direction, right? And it's like all you
Mm-hmm.
have to do is show up. And it sounds like, that was a place for me when I again hit my rock bottom that I was like, I every day all I could do was show up. It was like
Mm-hmm.
and every day looked different. And it sounds like you were there too. And that's something I like really I think that's the make or break decision for people, right? Like open your eyes. Are you going to show up for yourself today or not? Because no matter how big or little that showing up is, if you do it, you're making you're making progress, right? You're moving in the right direction. And it's like I feel like though that decision is hard for people and people aren't making that decision to show up
Mm-hmm.
every day. Like in your experience, what is that?
Mm. Well, I think creating change is uncomfortable.
Mm,
Um, you know, our brains are wired to keep us safe, and what's safe is what's familiar, not necessarily what's better for us.
yes.
And so I feel like for a lot of us, we maybe get motivated and start making a little bit of change. And then we hit this snag of discomfort. And I like to label
Mm,
it as stretchy. I
hmm.
think our words are powerful, and the words we use to kind of describe situations really impact our experience
Yes.
with them. And so for me, when I'm doing when I'm growing, right? Launching Wider Visions, launching this journal, it is super exciting and it's stretchy for me.
Yes.
And by stretchy, it's that, and it's that experience of like you're pushing beyond what's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when you're stretching, it's good for you, but it can be a little uncomfortable. And I think for many of us, we don't realize that. We don't realize that that's part of the process. And so we might register that discomfort
Mm.
as it's not meant for us, or maybe we just don't have the tools to kind of navigate that in between of,
Yeah.
there's always going to be an in between from, okay, this is where I am today. This is where I want to be. On that journey, you're stepping into the unknown and you're doing things that are unfamiliar. You're required to think, more expansive beliefs about yourself. And I just don't
Mhm.
think we have the tools. And so I feel like for many of us, we get stuck in this cycle of we want to change our life, but we don't really know how. And that's what I'm hoping to change.
Yeah. Well, I think your journal will absolutely do that. And I think as you were talking, it also like came to me that a lot of people's issue could be, which I think your journals that solve for, that they don't even have the vision yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't even know how to come, it's like this question of what do I want should be so easy, right? Like, because it's just you answering it, right? But it's not. It's such a loaded question with so much weight and conditioning and all the things and emotion on it. And I think a lot of people don't even know where to start with answering that question. And it sounds like your journal is going to be a really incredible tool to just get that answer. Because then if you have the vision, I think the vision then can be such a huge motivator.
Yes, exactly. I couldn't have said it better. I think for most of us, we're not taught to dream. We're not taught to believe that like something bigger is totally possible and
Mhm.
available for us. And the first step of really creating change is really starting to allow yourself to suspend the how, suspend the plan of like what you're going to do to get there, and just allow yourself to be in the energy of what do I want? What would
Yeah.
feel so expansive, so juicy? What emotions do I want to feel on a daily basis? If I
Yes.
could wake up tomorrow, what would I want my life to look like and be unapologetic or not hold ourselves back because we don't know yet how we're going to achieve those same
Mhm.
things, but allow ourselves to really like daydream of what that vision is. And then the next step of the process is, okay, what's the next like micro step to get there? You might not have the full plan. I always find with many of my clients, they want the full clarity. They want the full
Mhm.
plan of like A to Z. And the
Yes.
truth is, you're just not going to have that. For most of us, you just need enough clarity. And then the clarity comes from action, it comes from
Yes.
doing, and you get more information. And so I always love positioning it like, okay, what's the next experiment you can take that's going to get you a little bit closer to that vision or to who you want to be? And then you're
Yes.
going to in through that experience, or you're going to gather information to be able to adjust, and that's how you really set yourself along that journey.
Yes. Oh my God, you're tapping into my conversations with my husband, who is a Virgo moon. So he's very like planning, logic.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, babe, what's the vision? How do you want to feel? Like, and he's like, what are you talking about? Like, we need to do A, B, C, D. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is not, that's not the conversation we're having. We're not worrying about the how. And he just like thinks I'm a crazy person. But that I'm gonna have to have him make sure he listens to this section of
Yes.
this
Well,
episode. I'm like,
because
see?
yeah, because Brooke, this is what happens when we jump right to the how at that stage is we start to plan our future based on only what this present self
Yes.
knows,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And part of what I think our visions and dreams, they're inspiring us to be the better version of ourselves
Yes.
and whatever that might be. And
Yes.
so it really can limit us to really only allowing ourselves to vision of what we think is possible right now versus, okay, this is what I want. And how can I start taking steps towards it?
Mhm.
What would feel really, truly um, expansive for me.
How do you talk to your clients about like surrendering and trust and when they're working toward a vision?
Hmm. It's such a good question. And I also feel like um, for some people, well, I think surrendering and trust is a muscle. And
Mm,
the more you use it, the more it grows. And the more faith you have in yourself and the more faith you have in the universe. But I do find that sometimes people have an issue with the word surrender because it can feel like they're not like an active participant.
yes. Yeah, fair. That's, yep.
And instead, I think what is important when you're building trust is um, finding that balance of I really, really want this, and how can I be neutral in either the way it comes about, or can I hold my dreams lightly? How can I find like pleasure in the present moment and in the experience right now on the journey to
Hmm.
going after these goals that we have for
Yes.
ourselves?
Yes.
I live so much of my life in this state of like, if then, like, if X happens, then I'll be happy. So if I get this promotion, then I'll be successful and then I'll be happy. And what happens is when you get to that destination, you don't feel that way and you're always looking to the next milestone. And so for me, trust is really a key ingredient that helps me enjoy the moment and find pleasure in the right now and in the process and in the journey as much as getting into the destination. And I think a part of that is really finding more neutrality in,
Yes.
allowing yourself to hold things lightly. It's more of an energetics.
Yeah, very much. And I know you work with a lot of women leaders and women in business. How do you speak to them about this? Because I think that's where I had struggled historically and still do sometimes. Like you have goals, you have a board, you
Mhm.
have employees, you have responsibilities. And so it's like there's all these logical steps that you can maybe should, the word should, I feel like comes in a lot when you're running a business. Um, there's all these logical steps that can be really draining, can be exhausting, can take you out of the moment. And there's also this need to hold your vision, which the energy of a vision is very different than the energy of doing, steps 1 through 5. Like, how do you bring those two worlds together and make it feel like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not running my business just like, okay, let me follow my intuition, my business and my vision because I have responsibilities, but I'm not then also shifting into, okay, I know that there's this strategy that I have to follow because this company's done it and it's done well. Like, how do you bring the two together?
Mhm. Yeah, you bring up such a good point. And I feel like for me, um, the very like practicalness of life also has the opportunity, if you look at it, to be um, an opportunity to learn more about yourself and to be a spiritual lesson.
Hmm.
I think that they're not like separate, but some of the practices that if a client was moving towards something, they're struggling with kind of believing in it, either trusting that it's all going to work out. I think, a great exercise is like, okay, can you recall a similar time in your life where you maybe felt the same way and everything worked out? So, kind of like taking inventory
Hmm.
on your
Hmm.
past to remind you that you've, made it through those moments and everything turned out okay
Yes.
is a
Yes.
great way to kind of like build a little bit of that trust in your current experience. It could be, okay, well, what's in your control? What's really in our control is ourselves, our
Yeah.
responses, our interpretations. We can show up in our best way and things can sometimes still not turn out the way we want.
Hmm.
And will you be okay?
Hmm.
And so that kind of brings me to
Hmm.
my last um tool would be like, okay, well, what's the worst case scenario that we're so afraid of? and
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
resources would, what internal qualities might you have to tap into to navigate that? Can we explore what you might do if that happened? And then also, if we're going to give airtime to the worst case scenario, can we also give as much mental airtime to the
Yeah.
best case scenario?
Yes. I love that exercise. That's so good, Megan. Yes. Love that. I love living in
Yeah.
best case scenario. Okay. Like,
Yes,
so that's
but
my
it's just a
jam.
training. Yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
mental shift. And like, our brains have negativity bias. So like I always tell
Mhm.
people, it's okay that your brain is automatically going to that. Like our brains are wired for that. There's nothing wrong with you. And like as an aware person, as someone that consciously is really choosing to engage with showing up in the world in the way they want to be, like, let's just get curious about what's that best case scenario? What if
Yeah.
everything went right? What would that look like? And, um, you know, the best case scenario is the opportunity cost that you give up if you believe in the worst case scenario and it limits your current actions.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. What do you think people like truly actually want out of life?
Mm. I think that people want to feel deeper fulfillment.
Mhm.
I think they want to feel deeper fulfillment and deeper self worth and feel like they're really living a life that is utilizing like their gifts and values.
Mhm.
And for me, with my clients, their vision is always different. I've helped people start new businesses or make career transitions, find their life partner, overcome more like people pleasing, self doubt. But the commonality is always choosing a life that feels more fulfilling to them.
Yeah.
And again, I really think our visions that we have are the vehicle for us to meet new expansive sense of self. And it's just the coolest process. I like
Yes.
feel like it's the biggest honor to support people in that
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. It is. And it's so fun when you can see, like, I'm sure similar to me, like you can look at someone and be like, I can see your biggest, highest
Mhm.
timeline. And like, it's just a matter of time. Like, I promise. I
Yes.
swear, I say, and with my clients, I'm just like saying, like, I promise all the time. I'm like, I promise. Just like show up and do the work. Like, I can see it for you. It's all within reach. And like, as someone who's done the work, like, it's totally worth it. It's not that hard. It's
Mhm.
not that intimidating. Especially when you know and understand what is on the other side. And even if the life isn't like, I think a lot of people imagine the expansion being like multiple homes and a yacht and whatever it else. It's like, honey, you feel whatever your core value is. For me, it's freedom. I when I feel freedom, I don't give a shit about anything else. Like
Mm.
feeling that core value and truly walking around every day feeling free, I don't need anything else.
Mm.
And I think that's like I'm sure with coaching that's the hard thing. I'm approaching my clients from a more spiritual perspective, so it's a little bit easier to have that language, but I'm sure
Mhm.
coaching, you're leading people to that, right? But like I'm sure when they come to you, they have no idea. They want the things, they want the physical things, they want the life to look a certain way, and it's like, oh, but you just all you need to do is feel free or whatever it is for
Mm.
have you experienced that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because even even though I do executive coaching, I always say it's a focus on like the whole individual, and I make it really clear that like I am a spiritual person as
Mm-hmm.
well, and so I think my clients that come to me are also like open to that and
Mm-hmm.
like that more like holistic approach.
Yeah.
But I do think like as you kind of like deepen your spiritual practice, um the visions you have for yourself might look less like tangible
Mhm.
and might be more like value or emotional based, like I want to feel X, Y, and Z. And it's always interesting to kind of look at like what does having this thing represent to you to kind of get to like what's the core essence of what you
Yes.
want.
Yes.
So if you
Yeah.
want multiple homes and a yacht, like what does that represent to you? Like if you had those things, what would that mean about who you are? Maybe to that person, it would mean that I'm truly free, that I have all the means within my, you know, life and wealth to have whatever I want, and I have all these choices. And then if you get that clarity, then there's so many more ways to
Yes.
achieve that
Yes.
vision or to that achieve that ultimate desire than it is just these like material things.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it's a really interesting journey. And I love what you said a little bit ago, where you're like, it takes time. Like, you know, see, there's like these 30-day programs or 3-month programs or, manifest your dream life in 28 days. And it's like, no, no, it's gonna, I'm sorry to tell you, maybe someday, maybe we can evolve, not our generation, but maybe
Mhm.
future generations will evolve to a place where they're just in it, or they're just like, oh, I'm just one step away and I just need a few days. But like, it is a journey and it takes time, and like, not that that should be intimidating at all, because it's like you've also said in this conversation, like, you have to learn how to enjoy the journey and enjoy the process and enjoy what you learn and experience. But like, it is going to take time, the
Mhm.
evolution and expansion. It took time to get you, to that place where you were in the bathroom crying because you were so unhappy at work and having panic attacks, right? And like, so undoing, going in the opposite direction is going to take time as well. And I find it actually takes less time than the layering on of all the conditioning did. But I think that's a really important message for people. Like, just, you got to commit. You got to commit to it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with you if it's taking time. I
Right.
find like
Right.
a lot of times when my clients start to build that awareness, right, of like the stories, the patterns, the beliefs that are feeling limiting or causing them to, create that rub in who they want to be. It is so normal to fall back into old patterns. Um, I think personally it's a lifelong journey with some of the
Yes.
like really deep
Yes.
ingrained patterns. Because life is gonna life. And I believe, and this is my personal belief system, like I believe there's like spirit, human laws of the universe, spiritual laws of the universe. Manifestation is one of the spiritual laws. And sometimes things happen that are just out of our control. And um, when we're feeling vulnerable, I notice with myself when I'm in a vulnerable life moment, sometimes those really old, unhealthy
Yes.
patterns, that more critical way of thinking about myself comes back. Um, and that's okay. It's a moment of compassion. And what I love to say is, we're spiraling up. If you're choosing to like
Yes.
intentionally
Yes.
grow, you might look at the same issue from different angles. But then every time you look at it from a different perspective, you're gaining more awareness
Yes.
and you're spiraling up.
Yes.
Um, and so holding ourselves in compassion and however long it takes us, and then also recognizing like how far we've come in the midst of the journey, is what I think it's all about.
Hmm. Yeah, and I love earlier I love that you work with entrepreneurs, and we've talked a lot about them. If you are an entrepreneur, you are on a spiritual journey, like whether you know it or not, and I think I have a coach as well, and he said he's, he is a business coach, but we've gone far from that. But it's like the things people come to him with versus where they end up are so completely different, because like, entrepreneurs are on the spiritual journey. And I think for anyone who is saying yes to being on the journey of expansion, of evolution, like, you're already winning. You're already
Mhm.
winning if you have an awareness that you want to grow, you want to be better, you want bigger, you're already doing it.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I so agree with you. I think um, with entrepreneurs, what's interesting about us is that we're having to deal with uncertainty, and our
Mm-hmm.
brains don't like uncertainty. And it also is such a mirror to your business, can be such a mirror back to you.
Oh,
And I
yes.
think in really good ways. And then also, if you have an over attachment to the results or performance, it can be unhealthy.
Yes.
Um, but it is like been my biggest spiritual teacher. One of my biggest spiritual
Yes.
teachers is going through building these businesses, um, because it really forces you to look at any of the ways that you're playing small, or really make peace with, okay, how can I be in this experience and not necessarily know the result, which takes a lot of faith, a lot of trust.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been
Mm-hmm.
such a big lesson for me personally.
Yes. Oh, yes, same. And if you've ever, I don't know if you've ever raised, fundraised for any of your businesses, but that is like trauma trigger. Like every trauma you've ever been through will be triggered. So, yeah, it's a fun journey. And thank you for the work you do, because entrepreneurs definitely need your support, especially from the holistic perspective.
Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been just like the most cozy, lovely conversation.
Yes, it's been so fun. If you had Last question. If you had 10 seconds with someone it was the only interaction you were going to have with them, you wanted to say
Mm.
something super meaningful and impactful that would, have a positive impact on their life, what would you tell them?
Oh, wow. I'd probably give them a huge hug and just tell them you are enough. You are
Mm,
lovable and worthy and enough just the way you are.
yes. You feel like a hug. Like
Thank you.
you have that energy where you feel like a hug. It feels nice.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. I received that.
Yeah.
I would love to have that impact on people.
Megan, where can people find you? How can they work with you? Tell us about, I'm like ready to sign up and get my journal. Tell us all the things.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, you can follow Wider Visions and support our mission on Instagram at Wider Visions, or wider-visions.com to go check out the vision journal. And then if you want to follow along with my journey, it's at Megan Shekleton on Instagram.
Awesome. I can't wait. I cannot wait for the journal. This is exactly, I'm like ready to, my routine needs some freshening up. So I'm ready to inject it with, you know, surrender to following whatever the journal wants me to do.
Thank you so much for having me, Brooke.
Oh my gosh, yes. Congratulations on all you've built, and can't wait to see what other tools come out and what you have planned for the future.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you guys for hanging out with us. We'll see you soon.
Bye.